was a slightly rough set of games for you guys as you end up your group stage. What's your analysis on what just wasn't quite working there?
Aside from RNG aspects, we did have good beacon rate. We had a pile of zones that we aren't super comfortable with, like the double skyhook, single geyser zone. Obviously unlucky that we got ratted on that last one. A little bit of the analysis is that we just were losing momentum in our second set. Yesterday, we talked about a lot of the issues. We had some patterns that we were trying to break, and going into today, we just lacked a little bit of energy. It kind of just like fell flat. We couldn't really pick it back up and build the momentum that we are needing to like have good sets.
As a coach, between now and obviously assumably the winner's bracket on Saturday, what are you going to do to try and get that momentum back, get that energy up?
With NRG, there's such a high-level macro decision-making team that a lot of the faults come from like the little things. Such an unfortunate aspect of Apex is that you have thousands, like literal thousands of decisions and like micro choices and maneuvers that you make that are all correct, and it can all come crashing down with one mistake. And so when I was working with NRG, pretty much from the start, a lot of it was making sure fundamentals were at a really high level. And so that's always where we bring it back to, is like our mistakes always go back to fundamental mistakes.
What would you say is the aspect of NRG's game that has improved or developed the most since you started working with them after Split 2 playoffs?
There's some scenarios of successful stories where you can have your IGL as an anchor role. They had, for example, Sweet on Rampart. And it doesn't necessarily enable him as an IGL. The biggest state of improvement was like team composition, making sure people are in the right roles and then like know how to fulfill these roles.
Yeah, working on those narrative comms, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So for you, how is the dynamic working with someone like Sweet? Obviously, you know, he's one of the, when people think IGLs and Apex, they think HAL, Zero. Sweet, they've never really had an out-and-out coach. Obviously, we know they've got Sven as an analyst, but they've never really had a straight-up coach. How's the dynamic working with someone like that? You know, someone who, as an IGL, has always just been, you know, working on his own and so dominant and, you know, such a big personality in Apex.
I don't think Sweet really was sure what to expect bringing in a coach as well. And, you know, I think we were both kind of surprised for him just having like that extra voice, extra perspective, someone to bounce ideas off of, someone to just like go into the think tank with when it comes to just like brainstorming strategy on specific zones, specific rotates. Me, on the contrary, I was very surprised at how like humble and hungry the players were, and like the amount of respect that they gave me was very refreshing. I felt extremely welcome, and I'm not here to really tell them how to play. They're phenomenal players. I'm a huge fan of Sweet's IGLing and his macro. But I'm here to help them like take it to the next level.
What would you say is the most underrated aspect of NRG? Obviously, people talk about, you know, Guild's ability to pull off 1v3s, and a lot of people talk about Nate's communication, and Sweet obviously gets loads of praise for his IGLing. What is an aspect of NRG's game that you think goes unnoticed and people don't give enough credit to?
They play from two POIs that I wouldn't even necessarily put like as the most top tier POI, but they have very efficient set plays, very efficient routing. They know like exactly how to cut their paths on specific zones. And it comes from just like a lot of theory crafting, a lot of like going through motions to get to the point where we're a well-oiled machine and we like know how to handle scenarios that are in front of us. The players have like a reputation of not being as hardworking as other teams, but an aspect that a lot of people fail to see is that like we aren't going to stream our strategy discussions. We're not going to stream our brainstorming, our theory craft, and like there's a lot of it that goes on in the background.
Do you feel like that criticism that NRG's had that they don't work hard enough has motivated them before this event? You know, obviously they were very much talked about last time, even though they did, you know, they made the finals. They're still like, you know, top 15 team in the world at the last playoffs, but everybody looked at that as a really poor result for NRG. Do you think that that result and the criticism that followed has been a big motivator? Obviously we've seen them work a lot harder publicly with a lot more scrims ahead of this event.
We all kind of do pretty well at just drowning out the noise. I don't think that was really the driving factor behind like the more public display of work ethic as much as it was just the desire to win. Like the boys genuinely were disappointed in getting 11th place, and like they don't want to be an 11th place on the world stage type of team. They want to be in the conversation for just like building a team that creates a dynasty within Apex Legends. They felt themselves faltering off of that path.
This is your first event since you transitioned into coaching. How did that opportunity come about in the first place? When did that conversation start, and how did you and NRG sort of come together?
I wasn't particularly interested in competing in LCQ because I know that, like from the past LCQ that I did, it's like 2 to 3 months of like genuinely a lot of work for relatively low chance of making it. It's like the 2 slots. It's a lot different than like putting together all of your strategies for like you're fighting for the 11 North American slots to compete. I saw that NRG was looking to recruit like more staff and like get more people involved, and I was like, I wonder if I should reach out to Sweet. And started driving to the gym that day and was just checking Twitter on my phone at the gym, and I had a DM from Sweet where he's just like, hey, come coach us for champs. And I was like, that's really weird. I was thinking about reaching out as well. And so we just both like, yeah, let's do it. Gave him the heads up that I was going on a cruise. Already had that plan. So I was like, yeah, there's like one condition is that I've had this vacation planned for the last 3 months. But I'm totally good to go for champs.
You were still working on the cruise, right? Even though you're on holiday, you were still staying connected. Do you think that was helpful in a sense, that you were kind of away from the moment and you were able just to sail around? Maybe nice relaxing environment for a VOD review, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of, I was definitely like enjoying vacation, but it's almost difficult because when you're so passionate about something and being like so passionate about succeeding in Apex, and I knew that we were on such a good path going into champs, so it's really difficult to disconnect. And I do wish that I was able to be with them for that like final week leading up to champs, but I do think that we put in enough groundwork and foundation that they always know what they need to be working on.
How are you finding watching, not playing, right? Like, it must be difficult, like, being stood behind them thinking, no, just go right. Like, how are you finding, like, being on a team and having that sort of competitive drive, but not actually being in complete control?
I have so much respect for these players, and I have so much respect for Sweet as an IGL. He's someone I've always looked up to. I really don't find myself like wanting to like steer them in different directions. I find myself more often than not actually like impressed with their decision making, where it's like, wow, that was like a very intuitive play. Or
he's like a proud dad, like stood behind him, like, that's my boys. Yeah.
I was like, wow, I just didn't expect that. I would not have done that if I was in their shoes, and that to see it come together and then to see how it pans out and then put all my focus towards making what they did even better, breaking it down into theories, breaking it down into concepts that we can apply to other rotates, other decisions. The games actually go by faster when you're watching than when you're playing.
Is coaching where you see your long-term future in Apex, or would you, is it after champs, are you staying with NRG, you plan to continue long-term, or are you thinking about looking for playing opportunities as well?
I actually think I'm completely done with playing, to be frank. So I think coaching is where I see myself for the rest of my time in Apex.
Do you think that coaching in Apex is finally starting to get its recognition? How valuable do you think it is having a coach on an Apex team?
I look at the stuff that I work on and like the deliverables that I provide for NRG, and like just putting in the time to break down like concepts for them and then have like a quick 30-minute conversation with the fellas where they just get like the condensed version of like an analysis. Makes me wish I had that to the same extent for myself when I was playing. I was like, wow, if I could like offload all of the analytical effort, just like a huge portion of it to like one individual who doesn't need to spend all of the time keeping their mechanics sharp, it would have been very time efficient.
And then I couldn't speak to you without mentioning Sven, obviously, who's not able to be at the event, how, what is it like working with Sven, and how useful is it for you to have, an extra voice, on your shoulder to go off and look at things and bring things to you in more detail?
He doesn't speak like a lot of English, but he has like a very proficient translation application. And then with time zone differences, Sven actually makes like a lot of sacrifices to his sleep schedule to make sure it like matches ours for scrims. He's always putting in like input. He has, I kid you not, like 200 Discord channels of different like theories, concepts, like for different types of zones, regions, characters, everything. He's like always typing up notes, always typing up ideas. And I mean, he's a world-class analyst. He was a world-class coach with, I believe, Dreamfire in the past. Working with Sven is awesome. I mean, he's on top of everything here in Champs as well.
We're just entering the bracket stage of the tournament. How do you think NRG's chances are? Do you think that you're in with a shout of battling with Dark Zero and TSM to, win the championship?
Yeah, I think we do have a good shot. We focus all of our learning process and our decision making. There's like two ways to play. There's like playing to your lobby, and then there's playing to a LAN finals lobby. And unfortunately, sometimes you don't put up the correct results or like the most desirable results when you're always playing for the most difficult lobby. But we are hoping that decision to always like analyze all of our mistakes within both the scope of that specific situation and also the scope of a more competitive situation. We hope that learning will pull through as we hopefully delve into winners bracket and then grand finals later on.
Shiny, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me. Good luck to you and the NRG
Likewise.
boys for the rest of the tournament. Thank you very much.